Good morning, or at least it's morning where I am. This video is a review and a tutorial on the IGREEMAN 20-pack BNC male coaxial connectors screw lock terminal brass adapter for CCTV home security surveillance camera RG59 RG6 video transmission coax cables. If you're watching this video, you've probably bought some. I paid about $18 for 20 of them with free shipping. From what I can see, I think they're a pretty good connector. They are made with three pieces. There's the connector itself, which is this. There is a back shell, which is this. It's got a spring type strain relief, and then inside is a little flexible plastic tubing shield between or insulator to keep anybody who might be sloppy with their center conductor connections from shorting to the shield. We'll get to that in a minute. This connector is a 75 ohm connector. For those of you who don't know, it's possible to buy a 50 ohm connector. Now this actually happens to be an adapter, but it's the same kind of thing. The outside of it, to the casual observer, they look identical. They will both plug on in the same way. However, this one is 75 ohm impedance. It's made for RG59 and RG6 cable, both of which are a little bit larger diameter than RG58, which is the 50 ohm cable that this is made to fit, or would be if this were actually a cable type terminator. So, excuse me, the major difference to the eye is that when you flip it around, the 50 ohm connector has a white dielectric, that's what that's called, dielectric, that surrounds the center conductor, the center pin. The 75 ohm version does not. Okay, it's just the pin sticking up there in the air. So if you intended to buy a 50 ohm connector, then you probably already know all of this, and you're using it for a different purpose than what these are being used for. So I'm going to set this aside and move on. So as I said, this part is made in three pieces. I'm trying to keep my hands out of the way. The connector, the back shell, and that sleeve that's inside it, that's an insulator. To use this, you want to, this gripper it needs to be spread out a little bit because it's intended to bite into the jacket of the RG59 or RG6 cable. Now, a lot of people will strip the jacket back all the way to my thumb here, and then use this to grip the shield. I don't do that. I think that it makes a much less robust connection, and I intend to solder the shield to this anyway. This is a tinned, it's brass tinned. The conductor in the cable is copper, and they solder very well together. The center conductor is also copper. The connector's brand new, the cable's brand new, so there's no real corrosion to worry about, to fight when you're trying to solder. So, having said all of that, to assemble this thing, what I do is, excuse me, I bought some heat shrink tubing. Actually, I had some, but I bought it for the purpose of this video. I bought this at Home Depot. It's 3/8 to 3/16. It shrinks down. It's heat shrink tubing. It starts out as 3/8 of an inch in diameter. Okay, and then when you shrink it, it shrinks down to 3/16. So the first thing I'm going to do is slide a piece of that. And what I do is I bought a length that cuts maybe 2.5 or so inches long, and I cut it in half. So I have two pieces that are equal length. Right. So I'm going to slide that over the cable. Then I'm going to slide the back shell over with the sleeve still in it. And it's going to go on there. All right. And then we're going to strip the cable. Well, I guess I need to expand this gripper. And I'm just going to spread it out a little bit. And it's pretty, it's annealed, so it's very soft. And you want it to basically be able to slide over the conductor, over the jacket, which it has. Probably shouldn't have been photographing this in front of a window, but be that as it may. All right, so the idea is we want to strip it so that the center conductor is all the way out here. So I want to strip it so that the conductor is long enough to fit into the. Oh, let me show you the hole. Okay, there's a little teeny hole with a screw, and the center conductor is going to go in that hole, and then the shield is going to fold back over the jacket and slide in, and then once it's been crimped, I'm going to solder this in this little slot right here and along the back. I'm going to solder the shield to this so that we have both a mechanical connection and an electrical one. So, having said all that, I want to trim the cable so it's reasonably, so the end of it's reasonably perpendicular. All right. And where's that connector? Here we go. So I want to strip it back to about where my thumb is. So I'm going to use, and one might ask, well, why don't they make strippers that are made for this cable? The answer is yes, they do. I happen to have a pair, but most people who are doing this probably don't. So I'm going to strip this jacket with these conventional strippers that you can buy at Home Depot or Harbor Freight, or you probably have some around anyway. All right, so the idea is to put the stripper where you want it, rotate it so that the blade bites into to the jacket, but not so hard or so aggressively that you bite into that you cut into the shield. So for the sake of making this work, I'm going to pick it up a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. And I will try to just cut through but leave it attached so you can see it. Okay. So what I've done is I've basically cut through the jacket and left the shield in place. Now I'm going to take these and just grip enough to pull it off. Like so. All right, so a little bit of the braid has frayed a little bit, but that's okay. So this is trash. So I'm going to take this braid, spread it apart, and then fold it back and do kind of a ponytail kind of thing. Lost some of that braid. Like so. Oops. All right. Now, with a more expensive connector, what you normally do is you fan it out and then fold it back over and then slide the connector over top of it and crimp it. Well, we're not paying $75 a connector, so we don't have that. So what I have done is I've twisted it, all right, made a little pigtail. I'm going to fold it back like so, and then I'm going to take my handy dandy dikes and trim it. All right, so that's what you've got. Now, all right, so that's about what we're doing. And you can see that the center conductor is way too long. So it needs to be cut back about there. So I'm going to cut it. All right. Let's try that. That looks pretty good. Trim a little bit more. Okay. And now I need to strip this. Again, making sure that you don't cut through the conductor. You just want to cut through the dielectric, and we'll, like so. All right, and there's the thing that's left. All right, so we slide this on here. Oh, let me find my little screwdriver and back this screw out. Back that a little too far. That's okay. All right. So now the idea is to get the center conductor to engage the hole in the connector. And I guess I need to spread this out a little bit, just a little bit more. Okay. Come on. All right, there we go. So now, make sure this is in focus. All right, so I have the center conductor is in the hole. The little pigtail is trapped between the jacket and the ground connection on the connector, where my index finger is. So what I'm going to do now is take a pair of pliers, and again a crimp tool will do this better than pliers can do, but for the sake of this discussion I'm going to pinch this up a little bit and then pinch it closed. All right. Then I will take this little screw. This is going to be really hard with a camera in my hand and the cable and but that's my lot in life. So I'm going to take this screw, put it on the end of the screwdriver, and see if I can get the screw to not fall off. Let me get it started. Okay, there we go. All right, so now I've read a review of these connectors where the reviewer said that the screw hole threads were not strong enough to keep from stripping. Well, my impression after having done several of these is that if you use a reasonable amount of pressure, I'm using a pretty good amount of pressure on here to where there's no doubt that that screw is capturing that center conductor. You know, there isn't any hint that it's in the process of stripping. All right, so with that said, we flip this thing around, and now you can see the shield is visible through this little slot and back here. So I'm going to take my soldering iron, and my advice to you is if your soldering iron is one of those giant Weller guns, get somebody else to do this. You need a decent soldering iron that's made for that's reasonably made for the task. And I happen to have one that's for electronics work, and I've put a pretty large tip on it for this particular application. All right, so All right. This time I'm serious. So I'm going to take my solder. And the idea of soldering, if you don't know this, is not to put the solder on the iron. The idea is to heat the surface that you're trying to solder to, get it up to temperature, and then put the solder to the, not to the iron, but to the work. So, and that's what I'm doing. What the idea is to not glob it, but just get it. If it's clean and you're using decent quality solder, and it's you can buy it at Home Depot, just regular rosin core solder. It'll flow out nicely, and you'll get a good electrical connection, which is what I'm doing. Then I'm also going to solder this just so that the wires don't fray. Although it's this is all very far from the center conductors, so there we go. All right, so that's it. I hope it showed up on camera. I couldn't really tell. I can't watch and solder at the same time. All right, the last step is to get the sleeve and the back shell to go over the connector and to engage. And that's what we're doing now. All right, so, and if you have and you probably do, if you've got a camera or something to plug into, and I'm going to do that now. If you could plug the connector into a connector, then it gives you something to work against. And then you could tighten this thing down, because you want to make sure that the wire doesn't turn and that the barrel doesn't turn. So that's the idea. Okay, so I've got it fully engaged. Now we're going to go back, and the very last step is to shrink the tubing over the back shell. So here we are again, and this is that shrink tubing that I put on at the beginning. I'm going to slide it over the spring, slide it up onto the back shell. All right, so it's up there. The back shell is probably a 3/8 of an inch into this tubing, and now you can see that nothing's easy. All right. Okay, so I take my handy dandy heat gun, which you can use a hair dryer if you have one. This thing will get hot enough to melt solder. So, but you don't need one that hot. It's just an old heat gun. So we're going to shrink it. All right, there we go. And you've got what's known as in the military business as an environmental connector. It's not hermetic, which is a glass to metal seal, but it will keep out, if it's hanging down, it'll keep water out of it. So that's it. I hope it's been useful to you. If you liked it, hit subscribe. You might want to enjoy my other videos. I've got some videos on how to peel a fresh hard-boiled egg, which is hard, how to clean a paint roller fast, how to strip laminate off a countertop fast. Some of them are kind of amusing. All of them, I think, are instructional. So I hope it was useful to you. Thanks. Bye.